Welcome back, everybody, to another dicondissectional production hosted by Deathstroke9. Today we're going to be reacting to Bob Dylan, The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll. Now, I'm actually not certain if this is going to go through or not. It might get blocked, and if it does, you'll be seeing this on Patreon. But, yeah, I think Bob Dylan's, his discography, or the majority of his discography, just changed hands. He might have just sold it. And I'm not sure if that changes anything, but I do know that up until now I haven't really done much Bob Dylan because he blocks. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you're new to the channel, hi, my name's Daniel, and here we react to stuff. And yeah, that's about all anybody needs to know. Yeah, I mean, let's get into it. I'm assuming it's going to be a storytelling song. And the comments that requested this song, judging by those comments, it seems like this is probably kind of like ripped from a headline. Like this was at least partially a real thing that occurred. All right, let's check it out. It's about 6 minutes long, so that's cool.
Williams and Zinger killed poor Hattie Carroll with a cane that he twirled around his diamond ring finger.
Bob Dylan's got such a
at a
unique voice.
Baltimore hotel society gathering, and the cops was called in, and his weapon took from him as they rode him in custody down to the station and booked Williams and Zinger for first-degree murder. But you who philosophize disgrace and criticize all fears, take the rag away from your face. Now ain't the time for your tears. Williams and Zinger, who had 24 years, owns a tobacco farm of 600 acres, with rich, wealthy parents who provide and protect him, and high office relations in the politics of Maryland reacted to his deed with a shrug of his shoulders and swear words and sneering, and his tongue it was a snarling. And in a matter of minutes on bail was out walking. But you who philosophize disgrace and criticize fears, take the rag away from your face. Now ain't the time for your tears.
Bob Dylan's one of the greatest storytellers ever.
Hattie Carroll was a maid in the kitchen. She was 51 years old and gave birth to 10 children, who carried the dishes and took out the garbage, and never sat once at the head of the table, and didn't even talk to the people at the table, who just cleaned up all the food from the table and emptied the ashtrays on a whole other level.
I want to pause it right there to draw attention really quick to the fact that he says table 3 different times, and how that just added a sense of monotony to those words. It really conveyed a message, him rhyming the same word 3 times. Never sat once at the head of the table, didn't even talk to the people at the table, just cleaned up all the food at the table. It sounds like, so 51 years, right? She's 51 years old. She's obviously been doing this for a long time. The weight of that, and the constant repetition of that adds to those. The way that he wrote that adds so much to the dreariness of the line, I guess. At least in my mind. And I don't know. Just wanted to point that out, and also had to pause it because that's how this works. All right, let's continue. 3, 2, 1.
Got killed by a blow, lay slain by a cane that sailed through the air and came down through the room. Doomed and determined to destroy all the gentle, and she never done nothing to Williams and Zinger. And you who philosophize disgrace and criticize all fears, take the rag away from your face. Now ain't the time for your tears.
Wow. It's like a dirge almost.
In the courtroom of honor, the judge pounded his gavel to show that all's equal and that the courts are on the level, and that the strings in the books ain't pulled and persuaded, and that even the nobles get properly handled once that the cops have chased after and caught 'em, and that the ladder of law has no top and no bottom. Stared at the person who killed for no reason, who just happened to be feeling that way without warning. And he spoke through his cloak most deep and distinguished, and handed out strongly for penalty and repentance Williams and Zinger with a 6-month sentence. But you who philosophize disgrace and criticize all fears, bury the rain deep in your face, for now's the time for your tears.
Wow. Yeah, I love Bob Dylan. Love his stuff. Little I've heard of it so far. And, yeah, wow. That's awful. He wrote this about the murder of Hattie Carroll, a barmaid who was killed by a white wealthy man named William Zanzinger. So I'm assuming that this was an actual occurrence, right? Let's see. Yes. Killed February 9th, 1963. Bob Dylan and mispronounced William Zinger's name as Zanzinger. The accounts of the story were pulled from newspaper sources at the time. Hattie Carroll was a 51-year-old African-American barmaid in Baltimore, Maryland. She was essentially killed by the 24-year-old William Zanzinger. He was a young man who came from a wealthy family that owned a tobacco company. He came from Charles County, Maryland, a town where segregation and Jim Crow laws were still in full effect when the incident occurred. Ironically, the event occurred at a white tie spinster's ball, where Zanzinger got way too drunk. Let me just mute that thing from making noise. Very annoying. All right, and back. He was irrational about Carol's lack of speed with her service and decided to strike her with a cane. Wow. That is so messed up. You know, it's like there have been multiple different cases where someone can go to jail for, like, being under the influence, even if they're like not, I mean, just under the influence, not necessarily like driving, or anything like that, just having used drugs for longer than someone who's like a sex offender, like the obvious unbalanced field when it comes to law, and the obvious way that money talks in the courts is just immensely depressing, and it really sucks, when you see that this song is about something that happened in the 60s, and now here we are 60 years later, and things don't seem all that different. We still have lots of people getting away with lots of bad things just because they have the money to do so, or the status to do so, and lots of people who don't deserve it having all these horrible things happen to them. With a cane that he twirled around his diamond ring finger. And I loved how it's interesting. So a lot of times with music like this, let me think. What am I trying to say? A lot of times the singer's voice will start to get angrier, right? When I hear like music that has a little bit of a political message or a social message like this, or is regaling the audience with some story about something that's pretty terrible, right? A lot of times the artist, especially at a part like the end here, will start. The strings in the books aren't pulled and persuaded, and even the nobles get properly handled. That cops chase after them and catch them. The ladder of law has no top and no bottom. And normally the singer will start to make their voice sound angrier. But Bob Dylan made the guitar go faster. His voice kind of stayed the same. It was kind of weary the whole time, where to kind of symbolize the anger or the frustration, he made the guitar go he started strumming a little bit faster, And I don't know, I really liked that little detail. I also never really paid a ton of attention to this, but I really like there's a lot of artists who use not minimalist, but less stuff, and it inspires me because they manage to make it, Someone like Bob Dylan, right? I'm listening to this, and it consists almost entirely of a guitar. A single guitar and one guy singing. And he's got a very unique voice, and he's a very good storyteller, and that's all he needed, Some people say they dislike his voice, but that really didn't matter. Now, did it? Bob Dylan is a cultural icon. I don't know, it's just inspiring to me. And I'd never really noticed in the other songs I reacted to how he doesn't have a whole big backing band for this, It's literally just him and his guitar, an acoustic guitar, and probably 4 chords for this entire song. And then the harmonica section, which was really pretty too. And the whole thing was really messed up, especially that ending. That ending punchline made me angry and worked very well for the rest of the song. I guess I wouldn't call it a punchline. The payoff. It felt almost like a dark humor thing where he's the guy who's saying, all right, there is no prejudice in the court. Then after saying that with a completely straight face, he looks into the eyes of the person who killed for no reason, who just happened to be feeling that way without warning. He spoke through his cloak, he's hiding his face. He's deep and distinguished, and handed out strongly for penalty and repentance, William Zanzinger, with, and then he kind of stops a little bit, a 6-month sentence. And then the chorus, you who philosophize disgrace and criticize all fears, bury the rag deep in your face. Now's the time for your tears. Take the rag away from your face. Now's not the time for your tears. Interesting. Dylan is ultimately saying that the real travesty is the institutionalization of racism that endures, and there will be no justice, and de facto encourages crimes like the murder of Carroll. This particular tragedy is not... The particular tragedy here is not that the murder of an innocent woman, or that the perpetrator got out on bail so quickly, but that he was only sentenced to 6 months of prison. The chorus at the end of each verse is kind of telling us, it's not even at the bad part yet. This is awful. This is awful. But here's the kicker, right? Here's the big problem. The underlying theme is now is the time for your tears, because he got off on a 6-month sentence. There was no justice. The main tragedy is that the upper-class people treat the lower-class people badly. Oh, okay. The main tragedy is not that the upper-class people treat lower-class people badly. The real tragedy is that they get away with it very easily. He's also saying that those who philosophize disgrace and criticize all fears, i.e., those without heart who just intellectualize the ills of humanity, have no reason to cry until the wrongful application of law. Surely this is their time to cry is now, but a real normal person with a heart should have been crying all along, ever since William Zantzinger killed poor Hattie Carroll. Yeah. Second to last song on the Times They Are Changing from 1964. All right. That's Bob Dylan, The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll. Great name for a song, too. Thank you for joining me. There, right there, exactly what I said. The top comment on here. The continuous repetition of the word table in that verse with the same chords gives the feeling of the routine of poor Hattie. Genius, masterpiece. With a cane that he twirled around his diamond ring finger, Dylan has such a way with words. Perfect poetry that paints Zantzinger as the truest evil villain. Yep. The anger when he sings, and she'd never done nothing. She never did anything to him. The entire song is perfect, but the final verse is particularly good. The way Dylan builds up to the climactic declaration of the sentence, the tension and suspense is incredible, even though you can guess what is coming. The pause right before 6 months sentence line, the way his voice trembles with anger and sadness, just amazing. A critic once said, this was the most perfect recording of a song ever, in the sense that you could not improve on this studio version of the song. I'm inclined to agree with him. Bob Dylan can rhyme words that don't rhyme. Yeah. The song makes me tear up. Hauntingly sad cadence that never fails to elicit a kind of melancholy that is cathartic and deeply personal. We need more Bob Dylan in 2020. Always relevant, always on point. Bob Dylan, save us. This should be part of every history book across America. Should be memorized like the national anthem. Wow. Strong words for a strong song. Wait. Did that say he wrote this when he was 15? No. Okay, never mind. Yeah, all right. That is Bob Dylan, The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll. Very, very powerful song. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully this doesn't get blocked, but if it does, then, well, see you over on Patreon. See you guys soon. Deathstroke 9 out. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers by the end of September 2021, because that's my birthday, and I'm trying to do that. It'll be cool. It'll be fun. We're gonna make it. Here we go. See you guys soon.